Have you heard, folks? BlackRock owns the U.S. housing market. They are going to dominate. We are headed for a renter nation because BlackRock will own everything. Well, folks, that is certainly something I'm seeing going around the world. It is flat out wrong on many levels, but we're going to break down some statistics. We're going to hopefully educate the audience about what is actually going on, and we're going to do this with Mike from Rentometer. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone.
Yes. Happy holidays. One of the things about housing that you will very quickly understand if you're in the market like you and I are is it's a very emotional area. Mm-hmm. And some things can get said that just ignites the world and, you know, something goes viral. And one of the viral things today that I'm seeing over and over is the misguided quote that BlackRock owns single family homes and they're going to dominate the market. And, you know, I think we need to help educate folks. So first off, BlackRock doesn't own any homes. It is likely people misquoted it and they just keep misquoting it. It's Blackstone. Yes, those are two different companies. Don't ask me why they did that, but Blackstone does own and has bought single family operators. So they own tens of thousands and likely in the top 10, if not the top 5 of single family home owners. So let's at least talk about the right company, Blackstone, and not BlackRock, because they're very different. And you look like a fool when you say BlackRock and you mean Blackstone. Mike, what have you seen out there? I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah, so we're active in the long tail, which is, you know, if you look at the housing industry just broadly, which is what we do most of the time, 56% of all rental housing is provided by small investors, independent owners, in individual landlords and things like that. But I hear this press and the negative press about landlords, institutional investors taking everything over, investors taking everything over, and we're going to become a nation of renters. It didn't line up. That those statements don't line up with what I see and somewhat feel in the market. And so, you know, I came across a statistic that actually shocked me because I saw it. It was an NAR stat. One of my colleagues presented it to me, and I said, "Wait a second, where'd you get that stat?
Yeah.
Let me go to the original source." And it was
let me double click on that. Yes,
yeah. It was National Association of Realtors. And the stat, which does not get any airtime, was that the peak share of single-family homes that were rentals was 19%, and that was in 2014. Which, if you remember, right after the financial crisis, 4 or 5 years after you couldn't sell a home,
yeah,
BlackRock did go in and buy mortgages. They did go in and buy paper and support the market, and Blackstone did go in also. But a lot of those institutional investors stabilized the market because they were buying up properties that couldn't sell. And since you couldn't sell them, they were getting a deal on them, good deals on them, but they converted them to rentals. And so they actually stabilized the single family market by buying up those homes, because otherwise they would have sat vacant and become dilapidated and all that.
I remember 2014 vividly because I was one of the small operators who was buying, I don't know, 1 or 2 houses a month from 2012 to 2014. And I remember the day in 2014 when Wall Street showed up, because there was a process. Once you kind of learn the market and game the system, every Monday morning about 7 a.m., they would do a posting for the week. And I would just go in and find the ones that I want to write offers and go. I mean, there were days there were hundreds, right? Every week it was hundreds. Then it was 50, then it was 70, and it was 30. I mean, it just keeps coming and coming. And I did this for years. And then one day there was nothing, like zero. And I'm like, ooh, that's weird. Like, you know, maybe the system broke, blah, blah, blah. Check back the next day, still nothing. I'm like, okay, maybe, you know, what happened? And then the next week, nothing. So I called one of the brokers that I was working with and going, what the hell's going on? I've been doing this for, I don't know, forever, right? Multiple years. And he goes, Michael, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, what happened? He's like, Wall Street showed up. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, you know, we do that posting every Monday. Yeah. He goes, they bought everything, and they bought everything at list price. I'm like, they did what?
Yeah.
Because the process was you would see the load. I would go figure out which properties I wanted. And I forget what it was. It was something like the people would accept like 17% off list price, but not 18. It was just a math game to these people because they didn't care about the houses. They didn't even see the houses. It was just some internal formula. So once you figured out where the yes was and the no was, it was just a game. It was easy to play.
Yeah.
And then I hear that Wall Street shows up with a blank check and buys everything at list price. It blew my mind. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that in 2014, that would be the highest, unoccupied.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I was on the institutional end, on the apartment side in that period, and you heard about the institutional money getting involved from 2008 when the financial crisis hit, but they were buying paper, they were buying mortgages,
correct,
the underlying mortgages,
at discounts, yes,
huge discounts, and then they had to do something with them, and then so I think the evolution was buy the paper, and then they realized, hey, we can manage these and create a management company.
Well, you remember what Warren Buffett said, right? Warren Buffett said if he could find a way to manage all the houses, he'd buy them all.
Yeah.
And that's what turned on Wall Street. It's like, oh, let's go do that.
Exactly. So they had the mortgages, so they owned the properties, effectively owned them. Then they needed somebody to manage them. So they started creating the management companies came out of Wall Street also. So it became an institutional game at that point. And so it was at 19%, the share of single family homes. But that wasn't because people were greedy. That wasn't because there was an opportunity to put capital to work efficiently.
Big piles.
Yes. And they stabilized the market because from that point on, prices stabilized.
Absolutely.
The market stabilized, and then it recovered. And then in 2024, that 19% share became 16%. That was the jarring number that I saw, because I saw 19% was the peak in 2014, and now 16% in 2024. It's like, well, that's not what I'm reading in the paper. The paper is like that number's going to 30, 40, 50%, and it's not true. So
yeah, it's a great find. That is a key data, and you're right. I don't think I would have guessed that either. The peak in 2014 makes sense to me, but to see that drop precipitously through 24 and 25 is interesting. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but the other thing I want to go back to is institutional, because again, this whole BlackRock, Blackstone thing is important. Yes, I lived through it. They bought the entire book, and that means they bought junk and bought good things. So I've actually seen the evolution of Wall Street. Wall Street does not now buy old homes. They have figured out that model doesn't work for them. What they're doing now is they're working with national home builders and building entire communities that were always intended to be rentals.
Correct.
Which I think is very interesting, because people look at, especially Atlanta. Atlanta seems to be the hotbed of this, right? There are entire communities of single family homes that are owned by institutions. But I got to tell you, I'm not sure I consider those, owner occupied homes, because they were built, finance funded to always be rentals. They're like apartments. They're just apartments that are, made up of individual units. Yeah. And, I think that's,
and so if you look into those numbers, right, it's a big number, but the permitting on that nationally, I believe the number I saw is at a peak right now, and it's 90,000.
Yeah. It's like, woo, 90,000.
90,000 build to rent. There are 15 million SFRs. So they're playing a game, and again, they help the communities that they're in, because that's a lifestyle choice for a lot of people.
For sure.
It's an opportunity for a lot of people to live somewhere that they wouldn't have been able to live if in a home that feels different than living in a 700 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, right? So,
yeah, I mean, think about it. Would you rather live, to your point, in a 700 square foot apartment or a 1,100 square foot home with a backyard and a garage? I mean, it's
Yeah.
not even close, right?
Yeah. Well, it depends, right? If I'm a single guy and I travel a lot, I want the 700 units. I don't want
Sure.
to take care of anything.
Yeah.
If I have, a couple kids, a spouse, I want to be in a place that my family can feel like a family and practice for home ownership.
Yeah, it's really interesting when because again, housing can be this very emotional thing. Certainly today, when the affordability is at record or near record lows, it really does get people on fire. But to think about the percent of share of investors going down and going down precipitously is interesting, which
Yes.
means people are exiting. That's what it really means to me, right? People are exiting the business. Now, some of that's Wall Street, because I know a lot of people on Wall Street who bought a lot of old homes, and they're net sellers today.
Yes.
I mean, again, Wall Street is a net seller of single family homes today, which again, I don't think meets the narrative on TV.
Yeah. So what it says to me is the market works, right? It's they figured out their model. It's better to sell some of these homes, and the market's ready for it. So
yeah, it's very interesting. Well, one of the things that my audience needs to know is, again, they can come to Rentometer when they want to check out new areas, new cities. Where can they go? What should they be looking for?
So they should go to rentometer.com, check out our yield tracker, and check out our deal worksheet.
Absolutely.
We're basically helping the small investors. I guess the last point I wanted to make was that if you look at all housing, there's 131 million occupied units, according to most the Census Bureau.
Seems right.
So 25 million of those homes, 25 million plus a little bit, are provided by small landlords.
Wow.
And independent owners, right? Individual owners. That means the people that you and I work with and all that, they are providing 20% of all housing, not just rental housing, 20% of all housing. Because if you say 65 million are owner occupied, 25 million are owned by small investors and individual investors.
Wow.
And that leaves the balance 15% to institutional. So I think there's a real value to a critical need for in the U.S. to the U.S. economy, socioeconomic by the small investor. So, anyways,
I think the small, and I'll close with this. I think the small investor is actually going to grow because of what's in the industry is called the accidental landlord. Right. It was shocked today. One of the things I reported is I forget what it was. It was like 3 million people have loans below 2.5%. Again, we've seen record delistings, right? Some people want to sell but can't get their price, so they're taking it off the market. Yep. I suspect that the accidental landlords will grow by hundreds of thousands over the next 12 months.
Yep.
So again, if you're there, right, didn't buy it as an intentional rental, but it just makes financial sense, you should go to Rentometer and see what your house, your area could rent for. It's a great place to start.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Happy holidays. Take care, Mike. Bye.
Thank you.